Hello and welcome to From the Beole End, and this is the episode where we're going to be looking ahead a little bit to Fulham, looking back a little bit on Manchester City, but mainly focusing on today's news, today being Thursday when we're recording this. It's, of course, transfer deadline day. Still a couple of hours left as we speak before the window closed, but 2 deals done, and I'm joined by Paul Woodhouse and Justin Connolly today in a streamlined From the Beole End podcast. Reevesy always said depleted squad. No, I'm taking it. I always want to bring the positives. It's a streamlined From the Beole End podcast.
Yes.
Compact. We're keeping our shape. Let's start off with them new signings then. Central defender Maxime Esteve from Montpellier, and he's come with this talk of a possible option there for it to be a longer term move. And Laurent Alcignon, a 23-year-old right back. Let's not pretend we're experts on these players because we've been scrambling around Transfer Mark for the data and YouTube for the clips and everything. But Woody, what do you make of these two coming in?
6 minutes on YouTube is enough for anybody, isn't it, really? Let's be fair. Alcignon, everybody, I'm assuming everybody's kind of seen his skill spot video. And to be fair, he makes Trezor look like David Batty, doesn't he? Some of that shit that he was pulling off, I can see people in like the Bob Lloyd stand over the next couple of months losing their minds. There's ridiculous amount of trickery. That volley with the outside of his back of his right foot.
That is a class skill spot, exactly. Is that one?
Yeah. Exactly. And it can do the Amdouni Trezor pirouette quite perfectly in a centre circle. So watching him do that in our penalty area will be something to behold. But he looks an exciting player. And whether it's, he fixes any defensive frailties or whatever, we've no idea. Whether it's a better option down that route, I'm sure we're going to find out. But he looks a decent player. And conversely, it's always slightly dodgy watching a centre off on YouTube, their skill spots, because it just seems to be they run into trouble. But he looks to have quite a bit of recovery pace. It looks to be a little bit Nathan Collins-esque in that regard, which I don't think is any bad thing. After watching O'Shea get skinned a couple of times last night, so it's quite. There are a couple of seemingly quite exciting signings, and I think with Fofana as well, who applied himself relatively well for the 20 minutes he was on last night. It's could be quite an interesting couple of weeks.
Justin?
Yeah, I sort of agree with that, but I also wonder why we haven't sort of targeted the main areas of deficiency that we've seen so far. We're playing Al Dakil at left back at Manchester City. That can't be the ideal scenario, can it? We've all said we need a new, at least a backup for Charlie Taylor at left back. We've known this, since we didn't get Ian Maatson to come back in the summer. We've known this, and I can't believe we've got to the 1st of February 2024, and we haven't got a backup for Charlie Taylor at left back, and we're signing a right back and a central defender, positions where I don't know about you, but I'm not sure I would have identified those as the main glaring gaps in the squad. We need a central midfielder as well, don't we? Where's he coming from? I've, like everybody else, I've watched the videos on YouTube. They both look decent. They both fit the profile. All good luck to them, and let's see what they can do. But where's the left back? Where's the central midfielder?
Yeah, but that would have meant bringing in 5 in January, which was that ever realistic? Really? I get what you're saying. It is strange that we had 2 right backs in Vitinho and Connor Roberts, and we've gone and got another one. And as we speak, it's still not confirmed, but it sounds like Connor Roberts is heading out to Leeds United. Whereas left back, we've got 1 left back really in Charlie Taylor, a left back who company didn't want to play at the start of the year. So it is quite odd. That I agree, and I think if there had been a player who was going to maybe have a transformative impact on the team, it would be somebody who could come into the centre of midfield and allow Sander Berg to play further forward and to be more of a sort of, maybe play more in the Brownhill position himself and have somebody behind Sander Berg sort of, anchoring the midfield, being a defensive presence. But we've obviously either not identified or not been able to buy someone. I mean, there's a few players gone out in this window as well, haven't we? CJ Egan Riley has gone off to PSV Eindhoven's youth team, their reserve team, are playing the second division initially anyway. I don't think that's... I mean, it's a nice move for him, that, actually, isn't it? I mean, it's for a player who's obviously not featuring at all at Burnley and was on loan at Hibs last year. So that's a decent move from him. Still talk about Zarori going out. Still rumours around Benson going out. Neither of those are going to be resolved while we're recording this, but we'll see what comes of that. But I mean, would you have been keen to see a midfielder? Do you think that would have been like the number one priority, or has it been the right approach to try and shore up the defence in some way?
Well, like we've spoken about, for nigh on 9 months now, we've always known it's been a left back and a central midfielder, and we still haven't addressed that. We haven't even really been linked with anybody with regards to that. So, I mean, yes, irrespective of how decent these two may or may not be, there's still that glaring omission in the middle of the park. So, and also at left back. And I'm sure that'll come back to bite us as well.
Yeah,
at some point.
I mean, they're gonna have to be absolutely brilliant signings to turn this season around, aren't they, Justin? I mean, shoring up the defence. I mean, you mentioned before we came on air, the quality of these players we have to put in the context of them moving to Burnley in a January transfer window, or the position the club's in. I mean.
Yeah, like I said before we came on air, they're both playing at a lower level at the moment to where we are. They're both coming on loan. I think there's some suggestion that one or other of them maybe gives us an option for a permanent transfer. But when I say they fit, when I say they fit the profile, I mean they fit that sort of young player with potential profile. But if they're coming on loan, then they're only going to be with us for the next sort of 5 months or so. How much can we develop them? And if we do develop them, as we did with the likes of sort of Teller and Maatsen last season, will we get the benefit of that? If they shine for the next 5 months and do well for us, I find it difficult to believe that these two signings are going to dig us out of the hole we're in, and I can't get my head around the idea that they are signings for the future, because they're loan signings. So what's the point of it? Where are they going to fit in? How are they going to develop under us, and where are we going to take them? It just seems like really, really odd positions to target as far as I can see. So I don't know what the thinking is. I don't know why we aren't identifying the obvious glaring holes in the squad. But given the performance at Manchester City, I'm not sure that individual players are going to turn things around for us. I saw I put more effort in to get to the Etihad Stadium on Wednesday night than any of the players put in on the pitch, as far as I could see from where I was sat. So that there needs to be a big turnaround with the players that we've got, and there needs to be a big turnaround with the attitude and the aggression. All that was sadly lacking on Wednesday night, and I'm uninspired by a couple of sort of loan signings from a division, lower than the division that we're playing in now. It just seems I'm not inspired by it at all, and I don't see how it's going to help.
Or has the likes of Connor Roberts and Benson and Zarura been making that much of a fuss and song and dance about wanting to play and want to leave, etc., that we kind of had to cover for that? I don't know. It seems like,
Maybe,
Connor Roberts had to go before we got anybody in, and a little bit of unrest between Benson and Zarura. I don't know.
Yeah, but look, I mean, at the Etihad on Wednesday night, the spark moment came when Connor Roberts ended up in their box having a bit of a shoving match with their keeper, and that was the moment where, I mean, the away fans were, uncharacteristically subdued at the Etihad. Not without reason, I don't think. But that kind of moment when that happened, it was kind of like when the spark was lit and people sort of started getting a little bit up for it. So, and if he's providing that in a what was a really uninspirational performance from the rest of the team, then why are we letting him go? Well, why, and signing somebody else who's unproven?
Yeah, I don't quite get what's gone wrong with Connor Roberts this year, because I thought he was one of those players who people said when Company came in straight away, oh, you won't fit into Company's system. You remember when that was a thing? They had to fit into Company's system before when we knew what one was. And he did fit into it. He played that, he came into the midfield area and he did all that kind of what gets wrongly called inverted fullback. He did that pretty well last year. And he had some poor games at times this season, but nothing shocking, And you can say that Vitinho's done quite well coming in for him, so he hasn't been able to get his place back. But I don't know. I mean, I do wonder whether he got frustrated. And last night's behaviour. I saw there was a thread on one of the forums where people were talking about, somebody was saying ridiculous behaviour from Connor Roberts, petulant behaviour, and all this kind of. And I just thought it must be really frustrating for a player like Connor Roberts watching a match like that. A player who is aggressive, who works hard and gets stuck in whatever other limitations he might have, to watch a game like that was just so passive, wasn't it? I mean, I found that a horrible game to watch on a lot of levels. It was like modern Premier League. You've got no chance of winning the game or being competitive, but not even really giving it a go, it felt to me. I mean, I don't know. Am I being over the top there, Woody?
No more than usual. I think it's a very valid summary of the game. It felt passive, but it felt passive pretty much from the get-go. It seemed like, that initial spark that we tend to have in the first 5 or 10, seemed to evaporate as soon as that long ball from Trafford, Amdouni brought it down exquisitely, but then his layoff to Goodmanson was dog shit. And that was how that set up almost the rest of the game. We couldn't find a man. We just stood off. It didn't matter whether they were pressing us or not, and it was just...
They didn't need to press
absolutely woeful. No, exactly. And it was just all extremely woeful,
I mean, you were there, Justin. You got yourself wet and stood behind the goal. I mean, I'm whinging, looking at a palm tree out of my window, watching Burnley play 0-0 at Man City. Yeah. Woody's got those lovely snowy scenes outside of his window, but you actually did put the effort in and go there and get wet through. So I would imagine your perspective, well, it's certainly more interesting and more valid than ours. So go on. How did you see it all?
Well, I do wonder if whether that sort of influenced my sort of take on the game. The fact that I was absolutely soaked wet through. I decided foolishly to walk from town up to the Etihad, and it stopped raining literally as I sort of got into the stadium. So I was absolutely soaked to the bone, and it kind of got colder and colder as the night went on, and. That I wonder whether that
grim, really.
Exactly.
Well, I have to say, the Etihad Stadium is far and away my least favourite Premier League stadium that I've ever visited. Everything about the whole experience is fake, and the whole experience is soulless in every way. I mean, it's a really good lesson, I think, for Burnley that the atmosphere at the Etihad Stadium is so passive from the home fans, and I think it's because they try this sort of forced fun thing. You know, it's a bit like going out on New Year's Eve. You have to have a good time when you go there. You know,
now we're all going to sing Blue Moon.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, it doesn't matter how loud the music is. It doesn't matter how excited the sort of guy doing the announcements on the tannoy is. It doesn't matter how bright the flashing lights are. You cannot create an atmosphere that isn't developed by the players on the pitch. You know, it's almost like I always think of football. I don't think of it as a sort of spectator sport. It's a mass participation thing, isn't it? We're all involved. The players on the pitch and the supporters in the crowd. Synergies. They're all It's like a reciprocal exchange of energy, isn't it? But it's all sparked by what happens on the pitch. At the Etihad Stadium, that doesn't happen because everything is turned up to 11 before the game even starts. You know, the music, I felt like I was in a fucking nightclub before the game started. And I was like, I couldn't even see, it was just crazy. The music was so loud. The lights were, I thought I was going to have a fit at one point. And then the sort of flashing lights go off and the music's turned down, and then the pitch is illuminated, and you're like, "Oh right, I'm at a football game. I forgot about that." But what happens is the crowd becomes spectators rather than participants.
It pushes them away from the event in a way, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Well, you can't have everything. You can't have everything turned up to 11 all the time. That's not what football is. Football is 99% fucking misery, and that 99% misery makes the 1% joyful. You can't have 100% joy all the time. Otherwise, the joy just doesn't mean anything, does it? And I think that's what the City fans think. You know, it's all right watching De Bruyne and Højlund and Haaland and Foden. It's all right watching them, pass the ball around all the time. But it's not. You're not involved. You're an observer, and that's where the Premier League goes wrong, isn't it? That's where it's just. Anyway. And then I have to watch Burnley play like they played, which didn't make me feel any better, I have to say.
But in slight defense of City, I covered quite a lot of games at City when I was working back home, and some of those Champions League latter stages, and these are all in the category of if you can't get a good atmosphere for a game like this, then you never are going to do. But those big games with Liverpool, the big ones with Spurs in the Champions League. You know, the Real Madrid nights and all that. They were great. You're absolutely right in what you say, because before the game, there isn't quite the build-up there should be because of all that loud noise. Once it got in those games, people were leaping around and shouting, and, you get a bit of abuse in the press box as well, which is always a good sign of like a fan base being wound up and that kind of. That's
exactly what I mean. The 1% is the derbies, isn't it? It's the games that count. It's the ones where the title's decided, relegation's decided, where the ones where there's something at stake. You can't be at that level all the time. Which is what they try to force, and it just doesn't work.
It doesn't. No, you see that. You see that over here quite a lot, don't you, Woody? With
Yeah.
NBA games are really like that, where it really is like being in a nightclub. They actually have a DJ there, like spinning the discs, and dancers and all that kind of stuff. And in between every stop in the game, when I first came out here, it took me a long time to get used to it and be able to even concentrate on the game at all, because every stoppage in the game has music and dancing and stuff like that. But once you get used to it, it's quite enjoyable, an NBA game, but it does take some getting used to. It's sad to see that's come in English football. I do miss those. I must admit, having lived abroad for like nearly 20 years and then going back to England, my memories of football and what I found 5 or 6 years ago when I went back were two really different things. You know, I just I've missed that whole era of Premier League grounds becoming sterilised and lacking that atmosphere, and it is sad. But the thing that got me yesterday, just to move back to the game a bit, was it wasn't a competitive game of football at any stage. I didn't think, and I thought nothing. I was talking to a couple of journalists about it this morning in a little chat group we have, and I was saying, look, it's nothing to do with me being a Burnley fan and the fact that Burnley got beat and deservedly so and everything. But it's something really sad about games like that, where even the commentators were playing along with it on the feed that I was listening to here in America, saying, like, you know, what do Burnley need to do to get back into this game? Burnley weren't interested in getting back into that game at any stage. They were doing a damage limitation once they'd gone 2-0 down. And, you know, I had the suspicion watching it that, you know, City, for whatever reason, whether it was company or because they've got players coming back from injury or whatever, they weren't that bothered about putting 5 or 6 past us. They were quite happy to win. You know, they would have liked to have won 3-0, I think, you know. But it just felt like Premier League around the world is famous for that idea that the bottom club can beat the top club and it's so competitive. It's not like, this was like what I used to watch in Italy when you'd have someone like Pescara come to play AC Milan and play 9 men behind the ball all the time and just think, well, if we can escape with like something like 3-0, we'll be all right. You know, it felt that was the most depressing part about that game for me. You know, I mean, Woody, is that just the way it is that City are just so good? But we do see teams go and have a go at them, don't we?
Yeah. But if you look back at that, you know, sequence of results recently, what is it now? 42-2. You know, we basically doubled our goal tally last night. It's, you know, and it's not just this company side. There was that same passivity, even though it was infinitely more organised and a little bit more obdurate and stubborn, etc., under Dash. But the same kind of expectation were there. But every now and again, you get a result under Dash. This is, I don't know. It's the way that we kind of stand off, and you know perfectly, like, yeah, City have 3 games in a week, don't they? You can understand why they're not wanting to run around getting folks injured when they just bring in De Bruyne back, they've just brought Haaland back, etc., and they're kicking on trying to win a league. So it's fantastic for them to be able to like breeze through a Wednesday night game against a bunch of muppets that aren't even going to, you know, put a foot in at any single point in time. But it's like it's just that prerequisite of a little bit of effort, isn't it? You know, that you kind of want or expect from any side. It doesn't matter who you are, and we just wasn't there. It just wasn't there last night.
Let me do a Greavesy then and look for some positives, because I mean, the one positive you can say, and I don't want to get carried away with it, but it was really nice from Fofana when he came on that little run to set up the goal. And he showed a few glimpses, didn't he? You know, I mean, we've said this about plenty of players at Burnley, so I don't think any of us are going to get carried away, because we've seen, you know, it's become almost a cliche of there's a player in there somewhere, you know, with Burnley players this season, isn't it? But he did make an impression, didn't he?
Yeah, and I think enough as well. I mean, because I've now officially had enough of Amdouni. You know, I'm sick of seeing these little flashes in the pan. Then the simple stuff and his decision making is shocking. And that 20 minutes from Fofana showed enough. He was able to lay off, link up play, and then that little drop of the shoulder, turn around the back to set up the goal. You know, is something that we haven't necessarily seen from Amdouni on a regular basis. So I think it'd be nice to see Fofana have a little bit of a go and see what he can do in that position. Whether you push him out left, Amdouni out left, I don't know, or just drop him to the bench. But I've had enough of him.
Do you play Fofana in the Amdouni role alongside Foster centrally, or I mean, there was a bit of a feel of Nathan Teller last night. You know, in the way he played that position, going down the right quite a bit as well. You see him maybe in that role, or in which case, you'd be leaving Goodmanson out for him and going with a more attacking lineup. But do you do that, or do you play him instead of Amdouni down the middle?
Personally, I play him instead of Amdouni.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, I think Fofana produced more memorable moments in the little cameo that he had on Wednesday night than Amdouni's done in the last 10 games that he's played. I think it's really premature to judge, isn't it? But I think he showed enough on Wednesday to be given a chance, and I think Amdouni gets himself into some good positions, and he shows flashes of good things. But when that ball came over the top and he went through, and it was easier for him to square it to Odebear for a little tap in, and he smashed it over the bar. You thought, this guy's not making the right decisions at the right times. Yeah, and I think that's not the first time that's happened. And we've signed Fofana for a reason, haven't we? We haven't got him to sit on the bench, so let's give him a chance. Let's see what he can do. The signs are positive, and I don't see any reason to stick with Amdouni, given that he's had like half a season of, I'd say 30% of what he's done has been decent, and the rest of the time it's been a little bit disappointing. So I don't know. Let's just see what he can do, and see if he can affect something. I mean, I don't know about you, Woody, but I sort of feel like I'm looking forward to next season now. I'm taking each game as it comes, and hoping for a miracle. If we do manage to get out of the hole we've dug ourselves into, it will be the greatest achievement of modern Premier League history. If we stay up this season, won't it? It will be a massive achievement. I'm not thinking about that. I'm just thinking, let's take each game as it comes. Let's see what the players we've got can do, and let's put the building blocks in place for next season.
Exactly. I can agree with that.
Well, if we are going to have the miracle, though, it's got to start with beating teams like Fulham on Saturday, hasn't it? I mean, those are absolute must-win games. Mid-table sides now. I mean, we've got beyond the position where we can rely on just beating teams down the bottom end. We've to beat mid-table teams at home. So he probably hasn't had a lot of time with Esteve and Assignon. We don't know how long they've been there, really, because they seem to be quite clever at disguising players arriving at the club until they get spotted by a camera in Burnley outfits at Man City the day before they're unveiled. But so they might have been around this week, both of them, for all we know. But are we expecting Company to unveil a new look side? I mean, are we expecting to see, Vitinho rested and Assignon comes in at right back, Esteve coming in and partnering somebody in the centre of defence, and then having Fofana, as you say, in for Amdouni or Goodmanson? Are we expecting those kind of changes, or do you think we wait a week or two before we ease these lads in?
It's Vinny, isn't it? We could, you know what I mean? It could be absolutely anything. Ramsey will be playing up front. You know what I mean? It'll be something completely out of left field that we haven't even thought about, In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if Assignon wound up playing left back.
Well, that's not beyond the realms of possibility, is it? I have that thought has occurred to me. I think one thing we have to remember is I think the massive gap between the Luton game and the City game has not done us any favours in terms of our mood, because we all said before the Luton game that we'd had a month or so of improvement. That we'd started playing, we'd been more compact, more solid. That ridiculous goal for Luton to equalise came as a massive body blow, I think, to everybody, and we were all on a massive downer. Going into the City game, we're all on a massive downer, and there's no, as we've said, there's no possibility of us turning things around and gaining momentum back at the Etihad, is there? That's just not going to happen. So I think our view of that game at City is perhaps coloured by the fact that the last thing we can remember is conceding a goal in the last minute to Luton, which may have turned a little bit of momentum in their favour and against us. So I don't think we need to throw everything out. You know, it's not a case of wholesale change, because we can't forget that we were more solid. We were making progress, and I think if we can put in a performance like we did against Luton, or in the games prior to that, we've got a decent chance against Fulham. I say that with my fingers crossed. I must admit, I really do, because that performance against City was just mediocre and lifeless. But you've got to expect a response from that, haven't you? You've got to expect that things are, the players are going to be up for putting the wrongs of the last game right, even though we maybe don't see a lot of evidence of that happening so far this season. But like you say, Simon, if we're gonna dig ourselves out of this hole, Fulham at home is definitely the kind of game that we've got to take points from. Not point, but points. And when you're in the bottom three, one game can change everything, because everybody else around you is losing. If you can get 3 points on the board, you can really make headway into that gap between you and the teams above you. Whether we can do that, I don't know. I hope we do. I really hope we don't see wholesale changes. I'd like to see Fofana given a chance. But I think prior to the City game, we had shown real signs of improvement. I hope that we can remember that rather than the performance on Wednesday night.
Yeah, one player who won't be taking part against Fulham. We are recording this while the window is still open, and Hull City have confirmed they are delighted to announce the loan signing of Anas Zaroury.
Jesus Christ, no. What is going on? God. Right, forget everything I just said about Fulham.
Although that picture of him in that McVitie's top, it looks, honestly, it looks like he's been taken hostage, the poor lad, doesn't he?
How is that even possible? Yeah, he don't look happy, does he? He don't look happy. I mean, I thought he played pretty well against City. I thought he came on and sort of was a bit of he's tidy and neat, and as he has been every time I've seen him play. I'm just baffled.
But it seems a weird mixed message this week, doesn't it? That we've kind of gone from it was going to it was, it had a word with Benson and Vinny, and we were going to sort it out, and there were still Clarets, and then off he pops to Hull, because he wants to play. It's like there seems to be something a little bit off with regards to the messaging in some of this.
Benson was like, I've sat Benson down, and he's focused. Yeah. He's going to be involved for the rest of the season, and he's not even on the bench at City.
Yeah.
But Zaroury is on his way out of the door.
Zaroury's gone to Hull. Is this?
They've gone berserk. They've signed about 5.
Is this a dream? or is it a nightmare? Yeah. I don't know. I give up. Who knows? Who knows what's going on?
Yeah, so we'll see. By the time you listen to this, there might have been something else happen, but we're getting pretty close to the actual deadline itself. In fact, I think it's just happened, hasn't it? So that Zaroury thing must have been on the wire.
Yeah.
Must have happened right on the wire. Well, there we are then. Let's see what happens this weekend against Fulham, and we'll be back to talk all about it in our debrief. And should have the full squad back. No, we won't have the full squad back again, because it was going to still be fairly streamlined. I don't think Greaves is back from his little jaunt yet, but for that one. But we should have Chris Bowden back with us, So let's see.
Unless we send him on loan to Hull.
Unless we've sent him on loan to Hull. Yeah. Watch this space. All right. Well, thanks very much. Don't forget to follow us on social media for all your updates on what we're up to. There's a few interesting things coming on the line. Thanks very much for the feedback on the Michael Duff interview. Both parts of that are online. If you missed the midweek one, the second part of it, that was actually the better part of it. But check the last 2 episodes out. They both got an hour's worth of Michael Duff talking about playing under 5 different Burnley managers. Really interesting chat, that. And we'll have more past Clarets and maybe a few present ones eventually. But we'll look forward to bringing some more chat to you about that kind of stuff. But up next will be a debrief of the Fulham game on Saturday. Enjoy the game and up the Clarets.